Lieutenant Commander Maya Hale had learned early that silence could be a shield. In the echoing halls of a naval base, where ranks and reputations ruled more than truth or ability, speaking up often brought nothing but ridicule. Yet silence, carefully measured, could be a weapon. Maya had mastered it. She entered the operations briefing room with her usual composed precision. The smell of coffee, gun oil, and the faint metallic tang of authority hit her immediately. 12 men filled the long steel table, a mix of senior officers and seasoned SEAL operators. All of them regarded her with the subtle contempt that those unaccustomed to female officers often wore like armor. They didn't know her, but they assumed they understood her capabilities based on nothing more than her calm demeanor and the fact that she was young. Her chair had been placed at the edge of the table, near the wall, as if to keep her on display, but out of the way. No one asked her if that was acceptable. No one needed to. From her first day with Joint Task Group Atlas, she had been the outsider, the observer, the quiet one. The one they could dismiss without consequence. The abuse arrived in small, almost imperceptible doses. A condescending joke during a mission briefing. A deliberate interruption when she tried to present an assessment. Rolling eyes, muttered comments about rookies, or desk officers playing soldier. Each microaggression was calibrated, a test of patience and endurance. Maya said nothing. She had learned that arguing made them bolder. Retaliation, even verbal, often confirmed their preconceived notions that she didn't belong. Instead, she absorbed everything, documenting every slight in a small black notebook she carried everywhere. Names, dates, exact words, and the context of each insult were meticulously recorded. Each entry reminded her that her silence was not weakness. It was preparation. One tense afternoon, the team gathered to review plans for a high-risk extraction operation in hostile terrain. The projected success rate depended on precise timing, terrain awareness, and flawless coordination. As the lead officer walked the team through the insertion route, Maya's eyes scanned satellite images and enemy movement patterns. A critical flaw jumped out at her. Route Bravo exposed the team to overlapping fields of fire from elevated positions. Information not yet considered in the operational plan. She raised her hand. The room shifted, a subtle but noticeable collective groan from the men who did not appreciate her interruption. "Sir," she said evenly, "Route Bravo poses significant risks. Enemy observation points on the ridges would allow suppression fire, and we risk casualties if we proceed without adjustment. I recommend Route Delta, which reduces exposure and allows alternative extraction points." Her words hung in the air. The lead officer, already irritated, waved her off. "That's enough, Lieutenant Commander. We've already approved the route. Don't overcomplicate things." A ripple of laughter followed. Maya's cheeks did not flush. Her jaw did not tighten. She had learned long ago that reactions fueled their amusement. She remained silent. And then he entered. The room did not notice immediately. No announcement. No formal introduction. Just a subtle shift of presence that made the chatter die instantly. General Thomas Ridgeway, a SEAL legend, weathered and unassuming in appearance. Yet every step he took carried authority heavier than any shout. The room fell silent, the kind of silence that makes every microsecond of time feel like an eternity. General Ridgeway observed the group quietly, then his eyes landed on her. "Lieutenant Commander Hale," he said, voice calm, commanding attention without raising it. Maya snapped to attention. "Sir." The officers, who had spent weeks undermining her, froze. The general's presence alone altered the balance of power in the room. Ridgeway's gaze swept across the faces of every man who had dismissed her. "Why has a qualified officer been allowed to remain unheard?" he asked. No one answered. He gestured for her to continue. Maya inhaled. The same calm, precise tone she had cultivated over years of silent endurance carried her words now. "Sir, the primary insertion route has overlapping fields of fire. Satellite imagery and intelligence reports indicate elevated observation positions. An alternative route, Delta, provides cover, multiple extraction points, and reduces risk of ambush. Timing adjustments are recommended for synchronization with air support. The room was silent. This time, no laughter, no interruptions. Every eye, even those that had once mocked her, tracked her movements and words. General Ridgeway nodded slightly, allowing the room to feel the weight of her competence. "Very well," he said. "Implement her recommendations." It was a moment the team would never forget, not because of the orders, but because of the recognition. For the first time, Maya's presence, her rank, and her intellect were acknowledged, and she knew this was only the beginning. The operations room had never been quieter. Even the hum of the ventilation seemed subdued as General Ridgway's gaze swept the table, settling briefly on each officer. No raised voices, no casuales murks, just the weight of authority and the unspoken truth. They had underestimated the wrong officer for far too long. Maya stood at attention, heart steady, expression calm. Years of being dismissed had honed her restraint, but now restraint was no longer invisibility. It was power. She felt the energy in the room shift subtly. Even the most vocal detractors now avoided eye contact. The silence was not cruel. It was attentive, the kind that made every word count. General Ridgeway leaned slightly forward, resting both hands on the table. "I have reviewed all briefings, reports, and mission simulations over the past month," he began. "Lieutenant Commander Hale has attempted to raise operational concerns 14 separate times. She was interrupted 11 times, mocked twice, ignored entirely once. Not once was she wrong." A collective intake of breath traveled around the room. Officers shifted uncomfortably, realizing how long they had tolerated incompetence disguised as authority. While a competent officer had been sidelined, he fixed his gaze on the lead officer who had cut Maya off just minutes ago. "You told her this discussion was above her pay grade." "Yes, sir," the man admitted, swallowing. "And you were wrong," Ridgeway continued. "Completely and dangerously wrong." Maya felt a small surge of vindication, not for herself, but for the principle she had defended quietly for so long. She had learned to measure words carefully, to wait for the moment when the silence itself became her advantage. That moment had arrived. "Commander," Ridgeway said, his voice now addressing her by her correct rank, clear and deliberate, "present your full assessment." She stepped forward. Her voice did not rise. It did not tremble. Each word was precise, each sentence deliberate. She walked them through the flawed insertion plan, detailing the overlapping fields of fire, potential ambush points, timing vulnerabilities, and alternative routes that minimized risk. She cited intelligence updates, satellite imagery, and simulations she had run overnight. Every recommendation was factual, concise, and actionable. N01 interrupted. No laughter, no eye rolls. Even those who had laughed at her before now leaned in, pens moving, heads nodding, silently acknowledging her expertise. When she concluded, General Ridgeway nodded approvingly. "This plan saves lives. It is clear, comprehensive, and implementable. Let me remind everyone here, disrespect towards competence, regardless of gender, rank, or preconceptions, will no longer be tolerated." He paused, letting the words sink in. "If anyone here confuses volume with authority or mockery with insight again, consequences will follow." "Understood." A unified, almost reluctant, "Yes, sir," echoed around the room. The atmosphere shifted immediately. Chairs that had been pushed back for her now moved forward. She was invited to the table, her input requested before plans were approved. The subtle hierarchy that had belittled her for weeks had realigned itself, swiftly and irrevocably. Later, as the team dispersed, a young officer approached her quietly. "Ma'am, I saw what they did to you, and how you handled it. I just wanted to say thank you." Maya smiled faintly. "Most people mistake silence for weakness," she said softly, "but sometimes it's patience, observation, and preparation." She returned to her quarters that night and opened her small black notebook, the one that had kept a record of every insult, interruption, and dismissal. She read through it carefully. Names, dates, moments of injustice meticulously noted. She closed the book gently. She no longer needed it. The recognition of her rank, competence, and authority had made it obsolete. For months, she had endured in silence. Now, her silence had transformed into validation. Respect was no longer something she demanded. It was something that followed naturally, finally reinforced by the voice of a SEAL general. Maya knew that this moment would not erase the past, but it would define her future. From here on, her voice carried weight. Her assessments saved lives. Her rank was spoken correctly. And the lesson, unspoken but clear, resonated with everyone who had doubted her. Strength is not always loud. Courage is not always visible. Discipline, patience, and unshakable skill create authority that cannot be ignored. And so, her journey continued, still calm, still measured, still commanding. But now, fully recognized. If this story inspired you, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Her Brave Stories, for more emotional and courageous tales of real-life resilience and strength.